welcome. This is our 6th program in management course of MBA Gold. I'm your host here, Imtiaz, and with me the subject expert, Mr. Saeed Chaudhary. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Our today's topic is about manager as a decision maker. But before we start, I would like to request the expert to give us the brief review of salient points of the last program, that was groups and teams.
Our major learning points of the last program were groups, benefits of groups, groups and teams effectiveness, competitive advantage with groups and teams, types of groups, stages of group development, group dynamics, sequential tasks and group task interdependence, group roles, group norms.
Now coming towards today's topic, I would like to request the expert to give us an overview of decision-making process.
An overview of decision-making process. Identification of a problem, identification of decision criteria, allocation of weights to criteria, development of alternatives, analysis of alternatives, selection of an alternative, implementation of the alternative, heuristics, cognitive biases, decision making in groups, and ways to improve group decision making.
Now, expert, could you please elaborate them by defining and explaining?
Now, decision making is a process through which we all go all the time in our lives. We make decisions in our lives, we make decisions in our business, and these decisions affect our lives and they also affect our business, they affect our profits, they affect our relationships with people, and they affect our relationships with management and within management also. Now, when we are making decisions, we undergo a certain process, rather we go through a certain process, and the process by which managers respond to opportunities and threats by analyzing options and making decisions about goals and courses of action. This means that when we are making decisions, first of all, why are we making decisions? Because we are faced with certain situations. Now, the situation may be very ordinary and very normal, sort of routine situation, or it may be a new situation, a difficult one. As we say in SWOT, it may have certain threats and it may have certain opportunities. Now, we have to take benefit of the opportunities and we have to ward off the threats. Now, how do we do that? We'll presently see. Decision making in opportunities is actually the manager responds to ways to improve organizational performance because he has an opportunity to improve the performance and ultimately to make greater profits. And decisions in response to threats they occur when managers are impacted by adverse events to the organizations. That is, the events are such that they could cause loss or they could impair our efficiency. So, the manager makes decisions to avoid these situations and to adopt alternatives where the efficiency is improved and greater profits could be made.
What are the other dimensions of decision making?
There are three important dimensions: strategy, governance, and leadership. Now, leadership makes all the decisions, and actually the business is a series of correct decisions, the successful business, and these decisions are made under the corporate strategy or whatever business strategy is. Now, these decisions are then implemented through governance. Therefore, we can say that these are three important dimensions of decision making: the leadership, governance, and strategy.
What are the different types of decision making?
Decisions could be of routine type, which are made all the time in every business and in all situations, and decisions could be to resolve problems, to ward off threats, and to take benefit of opportunities. So, these could be new situations, and in the face of which new decisions have to be made. But the routine type decisions are known as programmed decisions, because the managers are in a way programmed to make these decisions. For example, we have to buy word processors or computers. For example, we have to adopt, we have to get routine supplies for our office people, and these are the decisions which do not need much brainstorming. But then there could be decisions which are new, which are made in the face of new situations, and these are non-programmed decisions. These are in the face of unusual situations that have not been often addressed. So, no rules to follow in these situations, and these decisions are made based on information and a manager's intuition and judgment. For example, should the firm invest in a new technology? Now, this is a futuristic decision, and which will influence our business and our profit making. So, this is where a manager needs a lot of information, and he needs to analyze that information and then develop alternatives, and we'll see the details presently.
Do we have some models to follow in decision making?
Now, the routine decisions are made in a programmed manner. That is, as I said earlier, manager is in a way programmed to make these daily decisions, and they do not need much analysis. But the non-programmed decisions which need data, which need information, and which need analysis, they have certain models to follow. For example, one of the models is classical model of decision making, and this is a model which sort of a prescriptive model. That is, they provide prescription for making decisions that tells how decisions should be made. It assumes that managers have access to all the information needed to reach a decision, and it further assumes that the manager has all the capability to absorb and imbibe all this information, and then also analyze this information and create alternatives, and then also rank these alternatives. The criticism on this model is that unfortunately managers often do not have all the information required, or sometimes even the most of the information required, and they, of course, nobody has all the ability to analyze all the information available.
Is the classical model of creating a perspective is based on some sort of assumptions?
Yes, of course. I have just mentioned that it is based on assumptions, and there are three basic assumptions. For example, we assume that all information is available to manager, and therefore he can list alternatives and consequences. The second important assumption is that the manager assumes that he has the ability to process information, and on this assumption he ranks each alternative from low to high. The third assumption is that the manager assumes that he knows the best future course of action for the organization. On the basis of this assumption, he selects the best alternative.
Expert, what do you think? What other models of decision making are available?
Actually, the other model, which we call the administrative model, developed as a criticism of the classical prescriptive model of decision making. The administrative model says that the classical assumptions that managers have all the information and they can process all the information is not correct. Actually, information collection is also something that has a lot of constraints, and therefore not all the information is available all the time, and as a result decision making is risky. The second criticism is that managers, like all human beings, have bounded rationality. Bounded rationality means that their cognitive ability is limited, that is, ability to know and analyze things. There is a large number of alternatives available in any decision, and information is vast, so that managers cannot consider all the alternatives and they cannot rank them all very scientifically, and the information available is limited and sometimes incomplete. Most managers do not see all alternatives, and their decisions based on incomplete information may not be correct.
But the question here is why information is incomplete?
The information is incomplete because the information gathering also costs, and it has its own mechanisms, and therefore it has its limitations also. Moreover, there are ambiguities in the information. Normally we say that information in business is of two types, qualitative and quantitative. Now, the qualitative information is based on words, not on quantity.